We are, once more, after considerable delay, looking at the Toronado project. This is the guitar that I was working on when I injured my hand. Rather badly, but it's coming right. I was back in the workshop much sooner than I should have been. Well, I was back in the workshop quite soon, even with my cast on. But I wasn't able to bring myself to do the routing on the neck on this guitar, which is what I was doing when I injured myself. And my aversion to routers, well, it's kind of calmed down now, but man, it was actually quite difficult coming back to work on this guitar and on routers in particular. So, some perspective historically, because I don't know the order in which these videos will be released, as I often say. I'm currently putting the clear coat on that first neck through Telecaster. I thought this would be the first guitar I finished, but that evidently was not to be, given my accident. So I had that accident and stopped working on this guitar in September, late September, around the 25th-ish, 2016. It's now the 22nd of April, 2017. So I have taken quite a break from this guitar. And in that break, a split has started to open up in the glue joint here. It's been that way for a while. I've had my eye on it, and it's not getting worse now. But that's a nuisance. On the whole, it's a good, strong glue joint, but just at the surface, down that end, on both sides, front and back, it's even worse on the back, but it does improve as you go down the guitar. You can see it at the surface. And I had to think about what I would do there. Would I cut along that joint? Incidentally, the joins between the pieces of wood on this guitar are not parallel with the center line of the guitar. I don't think I would do that again. Maybe I would. Well, who cares? Anyway, that's what I did. I didn't want to do that, to cut that in almost in half and then replane those surfaces and glue it again. That would interfere a little, possibly, with the routing that I've done here. It would be a real pest. And besides, what I'm going to be doing is filling in, using a filler on all the glue joints, and then resanding and priming before I paint. This is going to be a painted guitar. So you won't even know, right? You won't even know that it's there. There'll be no effect on the finished result. So I'm just going to leave that as is. And what I'm going to do now is go back to making the neck the right thickness, the right width, sorry, to go into the neck pocket. So here we go. Well, now that I have this nifty belt sander, it's going to be much easier for me to more uniformly narrow the neck just by literally holding it on there and pressing it down a little bit and then taking it back over to the guitar and measuring it and making sure that I've got the width right. And that's a very straight edge. So at some point in the not too distant future, I'm going to want to put a bridge on, and I'll be putting a fretboard onto the neck, and I'll be bolting the neck into the guitar. But before I do that, I will want to finish routing the neck pocket to full depth. But the question that I'm looking at just now is, what is full depth when you're talking about the neck pocket, excuse me, for a bolt-on neck guitar? And it's a pretty simple concept, really. So let me just put this back in. Without hitting other things with my neck. Right, we got there. Now, this isn't the fretboard that I'll be using, but it's just for demonstration purposes. It is nice though, isn't it, with the flames? Here are the saddles on the bridge. Getting a bit dusty. Now the strings are going to be coming out of the body and over the saddles. So it's the strings at that height which you need to pass over the neck and the fretboard and the frets. At full height, I want those strings to create a relatively high action of, say, 4 millimeters, which is reasonably high, higher than you would normally have it. And then I want to be able to adjust that action down by lowering the saddles. So that means that protruding from, now I happen to know that, I'll double check the measurement, I happen to know that the combined height of the plate and the saddles when they're at full height is, get this right, about 12 millimeters. That's what I thought it was. 12 millimeters. So the strings are hovering above the body at 12 millimeters running down here. So 12 millimeters needs to be 4 millimeters higher than the tops of the frets. And that's how you figure this out. So what have we got now? Now we have got 14 millimeters. Now 12 is obviously not higher than 14, so that needs to go down. Plus you're going to have another couple of millimeters for the frets. A couple of millimeters-ish. I will check the exact measurements, but I'm just explaining the principles now. Suppose your frets are 2 millimeters tall. They might not be. So what that means is I want, so 14 plus 2 more, so that's 16. Right, so that means that the strings need to be hovering 6 millimeters over the fretboard. So this needs to go down a further 8 millimeters, because 14 minus 8 is 6, and that's sitting 12 millimeters, which needs to be 6 millimeters higher than this. So that's how you do it. I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to measure a depth that is 6 millimeters deeper than that. That's not too deep, is it? Do I want to thin this neck at all? This is the other consideration. If you're routing so deep that you're starting to have a very thin back on there, then you want to start thinking, maybe I should be considering making the neck a little bit thinner on the back. I'll do that first, actually. So I've explained in principle how I'm going to go about this, but I'm going to thickness the back of this neck, and I'm going to, I hadn't done this previously, I thought, it's just a guide really, but no, I am going to make this exactly 1 inch thick. It's a little bit more than that right now. That is the thickness used by Fender on their Stratocaster and, I believe, on their Toronado guitars. So there's no point in deviating from that without a good reason, so I won't. I will thickness that now. Well, I have thicknessed the neck to exactly 1 inch, making sure, of course, that in doing so I wouldn't be taking 6 millimeters off already, because that would be making the, well, if it was exactly 6 millimeters, I guess it would be okay, but you want to be careful, don't you, that you're not going to go making the neck too thin then. It's a very snug fit. That's one way of putting it. Okay, and now it, well, obviously doesn't sit as proud of the surface as it did before. So, saddles sitting at 12 mils. Combined thickness of the neck, or combined height of the neck and the fretboard needs to be 6 mils. Oops. We've currently got, let's make sure this is sitting nice and flat. Okay. And we've currently got about 10 mils. So we'll just 12 mils. Is that right? Yep, 12 mils. So, I still need to take 6 mils off. That's right, I was going to take 8 mils off, not 6. Ignore my references to 6 mils before. Okay, so I need to take 6 mils out of the bottom of this pocket, and then my frets will be sitting at the right height for the saddles. If they're really slightly off, that won't matter so much, as long as there is still some space. So if I don't take quite 6 mils. If I take 5 mils, I'll be fine. If I take 8 mils, that's not so good. So now, I mark a line. I make a mess, and I mark a line there that is 6 mils deep. And it's difficult to do at this angle, so I'll do it when you can't see me, and then I'll come back to it with my plunge router. And there we are. I've marked a line. That's actually 5 millimeters. I'm playing it safe. And I won't go straight to my router. I must get used to the fact that I now have a drill press. So I'm going to take a Forstner bit and set it up so that it has a depth of not quite 5 mils into the wood there. And I'll remove a lot of that material with a Forstner bit on the drill press, and then I'll just tidy it up with my router. Using my drill press over there, I've, not perfectly tidily, but tidily enough, drilled out most of that material, not quite all the way to the line. That's okay. I will now tidy that up with a router. So now that I have, firstly, thicknessed the neck down to 1 inch, and then drilled and routed, and then sanded to tidy up the neck pocket, now the surface of the neck is pretty much flush with the surface of a guitar, and the fretboard prior to sanding is about 7 millimeters. So that's pretty much what I was going for. Now this is not the fretboard that I will be using, but I get my fretboards mostly from the same place, and they're all the same thickness, so that's a reliable guide. So the next thing I'm going to be doing, I suppose, is... Gosh, what will I be doing? I think I will cut the headstock properly, put on the truss rod, attach the fretboard. That's where we're going next, I believe.